Guys, I was not expecting to get this book. Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are going to be doing a ARC reading vlog. Before we get into anything bookish, however, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments, have you heard about these books? Are you interested in them? Do you want to read them now? Let's talk about it. So yeah, like I said, I was not anticipating that I was gonna get this ARC. I thought it was a request that just wasn't gonna get fulfilled. Then at the last second I actually got it, and I'm so happy. However, with that, I only have the one book for this vlog, so sorry about ya. Starting out, as usual, thank you to Netgalley and the publisher for sending me a copy of Ocean's Echo by Everina Maxwell. I am so excited for it. Let me just say, this is technically a standalone sci-fi fantasy. However, it does take place in the same universe as her first book, Winter's Orbit, which I read back in January as a part of a 24-hour readathon, and I loved it. I'll put a link to that in the video up above if you're interested. I am squealing the entire time about these two dorks. Here's hoping that I will love this new couple just as much. So going in, I knew very little about this book. I really didn't know what to expect at all. However, I am currently about 10% in, and I can give you a bit of a better summary. So this story is taking place on a world where there are telepaths who fall into two different factions. On one side, we have the readers. They can hear and feel other people's thoughts and emotions. On the opposite side, we have the architects who can make other people feel or think whatever they want. I don't think everyone in the society falls into these two groups, and I also think readers are more rare than architects. On top of that, I think this is a military state because it seems like a large majority of the world really revolves around the military. And our main character, Tanal, who we meet in the beginning, has been on the run because he doesn't want to join the military. Unfortunately for him, his aunt is a very powerful politician and manages to kidnap him and bring him back home. Now that Tanal has been captured, I do believe he is going to be forced into the military, and that an architect will be paired with him to continuously control his thoughts and emotions. Thus far, I am enjoying it. I was really intrigued about the fact that we pretty much just get dropped into the world, and very slowly over time we start to learn what readers and architects are. There are different factions of the military, which I'm slowly starting to put together. Definitely is not spoon-fed to you. You really have to kind of work for it in this one. Already, I do have to say I am inclined to like Tanal. He is kind of a rebellious mess, but I'm really into it. I do, however, wish we were getting a little bit more personality from him, but I'm 10% in. It's not a lot yet. I do like that he has a pretty close relationship with his little sister, even though they haven't really seen each other for 8 months, but I do think that's very precious, and he's still incredibly protective of her. I have literally just seen from the love interest perspective for the first time, and I believe his name is 𝗖cie. He is a high-ranking officer and was actually one of the ones who kidnapped Tanal and brought him back to his aunt. In the very, very tiny amount that I've seen, 𝗖cie seems to be a pretty serious officer, but also really sarcastic and dry, and I already adore him. One other thing that I just think is pretty cool is this society actually showcases their gender by a certain bead that they wear on a bracelet. She did something similar in Winter's Orbit, but I think it was like ear jewelry to dictate if someone was non-binary. One way or another, I am enjoying this, and I might be updating you guys a little more than normal, seeing as how I only have the one book for this video. Here's hoping y'all really enjoy. Sam just ran away with a little pouch I keep my microphone in. That's rude. Anyway. Hey y'all, so I have just hit the 30% mark into Ocean's Echo, and I'm really enjoying this. I'm starting to feel more settled in the world now and definitely better understanding the background story. So quite a while back, the army found some technology which they utilized to create the readers and architects, which I explained in the first update. However, readers were often treated worse, and then eventually they actually staged a coup, and once that happened, the army stopped creating readers and kind of redoubled their efforts in making architects, which is why the society heavily leans towards architects. A civil war ended up taking place, and now no readers are created artificially. Any individual who ends up being a reader came about their powers because of genetics. How this ties into our boys is 𝗖ṛIH's mother was actually the single architect who worked with the readers during the Civil War. Find out that basically the reason he is so successful at a young age within the army is because he is trying to not only bring respect back to his family name. His mother had a pension which should be going to his alternative parent. That's what they call the parent in the society which didn't reproduce the child. Anyway, 𝗖ṛIH is trying to not only bring respect back to his family name, but also reinstate that pension for his alt parent. His alt parent won't be suffering financially anymore. All that's to say, I do feel like this is pretty well established in regards to world building. Definitely very military feel, but it has some sci-fi qualities that really run true throughout all of it. I can't help it. There's certain aspects of this that definitely make me think of the video game series Mass Effect, especially in how they break down the military. Like, that definitely made me think of Mass Effect. Clearly, with all the history we've been given, I do believe there's going to be some underlying plot that's going to tie in with all of that. Haven't gotten to it yet, but that's my guess. The writing also fits very well with this world building in that it's very formal and stiff. I could see some people not being a big fan of it. I definitely have been trying to get used to it. I think I'm doing a little bit better now. It just feels like it has a very formal tone. The real thing that I am starting to love more and more is, unsurprisingly, our characters. 𝗖ṛIH definitely has a sweet interior, but you can't see it in his dialogue or in his thoughts. It's in his actions. And that's what I really love about him, is he's genuinely a very good person. Something interesting about him, however, is that Tanaal actually can't read 𝗖ṛIH, not just in emotions or facial expressions. He genuinely cannot read 𝗖ṛIH with his telepathy. In regards to their relationship, they've kind of become reluctant comrades because they were set up to be synced together, where 𝗖ṛIH would constantly be linked to Tanaal and would be able to control him using his telepathy at any point, at any time. But this showcases how good of a person 𝗖ṛIH is. Given the circumstances around how Tanaal was put into the army, he refuses to sync him because he doesn't believe it's consensual. He does not think that Tanaal can really ever consent to this because he didn't even consent to being put into the military. He doesn't want to take any chance that he could take advantage of Tanaal, whether that be utilizing the sync, whether it be in his higher ranking, or in the fact that now that they're faking this mental sync, he doesn't want Tanaal to be scared that he's going to utilize the secret against him. Like, oh my god. I told you, he's such a good person, and I'm swooning for him. He's so adorable. Tanaal is starting to get a little bit more personality, and he's growing on me. His sister told him that making bad decisions wasn't a personality trait, but he sure tries to make it one, and I kind of love him for it. Whenever an architect mentally controls somebody, it's called writing. Tanaal actually used to allow architects to write him because he felt like it gave him the opportunity to get out of his head and he didn't have to think constantly. And I just, sweetie, no, my heart. Understandably, given how he got into this entire situation, he is pretty disbelieving that 𝗖ṛIH could be such a good person. He is constantly thinking that something is going to come up and 𝗖ṛIH is going to just finally decide to sync him, take advantage of him, do something along those lines, and just, I want to give him a hug because you can tell in how he acts, this boy has not had an easy life. What has made him act out in the way he has? I told you, these characters are growing on me. In regards to the tropes I feel like this falls within, definitely forced proximity. Kind of feel like we're getting some like animosity to friends to lovers energy, which I'm into. Anyway, overall, I am enjoying this. It's an ebook, so I don't work through these crazy fast, but I will say I have been making a lot of time to actually read this. I've been actively picking it up on my phone, so I'm working through it faster than I have a few previous arcs, which is saying something. Hey guys, so this is going to be a quick little update because I'm at the halfway point now in Ocean's Echo, and I both feel like a lot has happened and not a lot has happened. It's a very weird feeling to have. I think the most development we've really seen thus far since I last spoke with you is in regards to 𝗖ṛIH and Tanaal's relationship. They are slowly starting to become more and more of actual friends. They're starting to care for one another, understand the other person's reactions to certain situations, read them them a little bit better, not in the telepath sort of way, just reading their facial expressions, their tone, the word usage, that sort of stuff. Although we're definitely still in friends territory, I will say there are occasional little moments, little interactions, little touches and things where you can see that their feelings are not completely platonic, and anytime those happen, I am just squealing. I'm over the moon for them. It's so dang cute. I realized that this is kind of like a fake soul bond sort of scenario, like from a fanfic, and I'm really into that. We also have been introduced to some side characters, which I am enjoying. Both of them are rankers, which work alongside Tanal. So one of them is 𝗖cie and 𝗖ście. 𝗖cie has romantic feelings for 𝗖ście and is a big reason of why they are actually still in the military, or at least in the position they currently are in. Just a little side romance, and like, I'm here for it. It's really cute. Also, I'm just enjoying the friendship that we're seeing between those three, because 𝗖cie is such a sarcastic ass, but I'm super here for it. They definitely call Tanal out on being the spoiled rich boy who doesn't really know anything, but they also give him credit where credit is due, while 𝗖ście is just this sweet lady who is basically just stuck with these two idiots, is just fascinated by Tanal. I'm liking them too. In terms of the plot, I'm not really gonna go into any more specifics just because this definitely took a turn I was not anticipating, and that's part of the whole element of it's like a lot has happened and also not a lot, which I will say does lean into my one negative I've really had so far, which is pacing's pretty odd in this. A fair amount of time has passed, and yet it doesn't feel like a lot of time has passed given what we've seen from the characters. It's just we're told, okay, it's a week later, okay, 10 days have passed, now 3 days have passed, that sort of thing. However, I will say, in regards to the plot, I do think we are starting to get more into the whole political intrigue, scheming sort of main plot that I expected at the beginning. I think the route we're going to go down is really starting to explore the power imbalances between the readers and the architects in this society, and also start to see some of the injustices the readers have to deal with, and that's why there was a reader coup. All of that definitely has me really intrigued. Finally, I'm still getting used to this like really stiff writing style. I've also noticed that the author is definitely leaning harder into the sci-fi elements this time around than they did in Winter's Orbit. That's not really a complaint, but I know some people were saying with Winter's Orbit that it was either too romance or too sci-fi, and I guess the author is trying to lean more into the sci-fi genre this time around, because it definitely feels like there's been a lot more focus on the whole sci-fi world building in comparison to the romance, even though I will say there is still definitely some focus on the character relationship developing that those two are going through. Hey guys, honestly, it's surprising that I stopped to update y'all. I'm at the 81% mark in Ocean's Echo right now, and shit is getting good. Shit is getting intense. I am so immersed into this story now. We finally have gotten a few coupley moments between these two. We get a kiss, and the circumstances surrounding said kiss just like are the worst possible place for you to have your first kiss, and yet at the same time I freaking love it. Even once we hit that though, so freaking slow burn, y'all. Like, they still aren't a couple, and I'm 80% in, so be prepared for that. I'm literally squealing at every single tiny thing between these two. There are definitely some surprises in regards to plot. I was correct in assuming that we were really going to start diving into the whole political plot, intrigue, whatever you want to call it, scenarios. And with that whole thing, we definitely start to see some action. That's a lot of fun. Something I've said since the beginning is the writing style still just not really for me. Stiff, formal, but in terms of whenever they finally start using their powers, the writing finally starts to edge into flowerier, more romantic style, and I do love that. I love the dichotomy of those two writing styles and the way you can see how different things are from like the military lifestyle both of these boys are in, and then the relationship the two of them have because of the scenario they have been put into. And then y'all, wow, Maxwell really pulls out all the stops when it comes to both of these characters' deepest, darkest inner fears, and then every tiny little insecurity that they feel just gets amplified over the top and explored, and oh my gosh, it's just like constantly tugging at my heartstrings. I think I've nearly cried like 4 times now. Wasn't expecting that with where the plot has gone. Even with all of that, I will still say this is still super slow moving, and the pacing is still pretty weird. It also feels very strange given that the plot has taken a jump. It seems like things should be moving a lot faster, but then we slowly lull back into like character-driven area. All in all, I think my biggest negatives so far have just been like writing and pacing in this book, but like I'm still having a great time with this. I'm honestly probably gonna finish it tonight. I need to see these two idiots kiss at least one more time because this has been so slow. So slow. I can't believe I'm this invested. Guys, I figured it out. This is sci-fi soulmate Steve and Tony fanfiction. Hey y'all, so I officially finished out Ocean's Echo, and yeah, I definitely enjoyed this. Ending gets really punchy. There's so much action going on. There are multiple different plot twists that take place. I will say I wasn't really expecting those. The final fight scene is probably the most beautifully written part of the entire book. It is so good. It's so cool. I realized that the whole stiff, formal style of writing within this book mostly changes anytime it comes to like power usage, and that, like, I think that's a very clever way to do that. Everina Maxwell, good job with that. The way the story wraps up is very satisfying, but at the same time, it's obviously not the end for these characters. Like, it's the end of the story, it's the natural end of what we've been following, but as far as like the actual story, there's clearly more to happen, so it's one of those sort of endings. I know some people aren't a big fan, that's why I say. As for the characters, I was so taken off guard once we hit the end of this book, realizing that I had grown to care about them so much. Where we start with these characters, they're really basic, and I mentioned I wanted more personality from both of them, but like in the end, I came to care about them so deeply. I feel like you really can understand each of them. They're very fleshed out throughout the entire story. 𝗖cie doesn't have a ton of personality right out of the get-go because he definitely has that like very strict, regimented soldier personality, but like in the actions and the way he handles himself, you can really understand the kind of person he is, and the arc Tanal has is so good. Oh my god. Talk about growth. In regards to their relationship, this is super slow burn. Very, very slow moving. I would definitely say that Winter's Orbit had more of like a 33, 33, 34 breakdown, where it was like 33% sci-fi, 33% mystery, 34% romance. This is like 75% sci-fi politics plot, 25% romance. It's definitely a lot smaller in terms of the story. Even with it, I would still say there's enough there to actually make you engaged with the romance and still be invested in them coming together. The development and the realization we see once they finally come to the conclusion that they have to be in love with one another, like, it's so funny how they go about it. I was squealing over my feelings. I had a good time with them. I didn't love it quite as much as Winter's Orbit, but I do think this book helped me realize that in terms of sci-fi, I like stuff that leans more into like the fantasy elements, because with this having the whole neuromodification telepathy thing, it definitely felt like it was leaning more fantasy and less like realistic science, which I guess that's my bag when it comes to sci-fi. Talking with my hands a lot today. I don't know what that's about. I gave this book 4 stars. You don't have to read Winter's Orbit to read this one, by the way. They are not direct sequels. I think the only real connection between the two of them is the Resolution, which is this governing body that spans between all of the different planets. That's really the only connection these two books have. So yes, came out to 4 stars. I am so happy I got an arc of this. I definitely do see myself buying a copy and honestly annotating the crap out of all of the little moments between Tanal and 𝗖cie because they're so cute. Okay, y'all, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I have all my socials linked in the description if you're interested in keeping up with what I am reading. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!